All right, folks, welcome back in. I'm Jake ELLENBOGEN. Today, we're going to be talking about why I think you should not give up on this Rams team in 2024. Before we get started, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogen, including Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and Kick, which is where we'll have our all 22 breakdowns. Throwing away the Kick live stream, the all 22 this week because of the Cardinals game. No point of releasing that, but I did want to bring this up. I wanted to do a video on why really everything is being overblown in the first 2 weeks of the season. Before I get into that, though, today's sponsor is BetUS. And you can go over and get 150% bonus on your first deposit and 125 on your next two deposits up to $2,000 using YouTube 150 as your code. That is YouTube 150 will get you 150% bonus on your first deposit, and on your second and third, you'll have 125% bonus up to $2,000. So that is BetUS. Go and check them out. They got some good lines. And I'll tell you right now, one thing I'm really looking at in this game specifically is right now there's a lot of injuries, a lot of, unknown when it comes to the Rams and 49ers. But one thing I do know is I am pounding the over on Jordan Whittington, who is now at 32.5 receiving yards, and it is going up. And I'll tell you right now, Tutu Atwell, 22.5. Last time he faced the San Francisco 49ers, he had over 70 yards receiving in week 2 of last year. I'll tell you right now, I'm pounding the over on Tutu Atwell. And I'll go as far as to say Matthew Stafford at 215.5 passing yards. Pound the over on that one. Stafford is going to have to sling it if they want to win this game. So you can go and check that out over on BetUS. And the code is in the description in the comment section, YouTube 150 below. All right, guys. So with this game, with this season, I understand it has brought a lot of negative energy, right? A lot of negative energy. I have not seen the likes of in the Sean McVay era. I mean, say what you will about 2022. What a lot of people seem to forget is they started off the season 2-1. So it wasn't ideal, but they beat the Cardinals and they beat the Falcons. They got clapped by the Bills on primetime to start off the season. They're 0-2, but it's not like both of the games they got blown out in. As a matter of fact, the game against a team that has been picked by a lot of people to win the NFC title, at least go to the Super Bowl, in the Detroit Lions, they outplayed the Lions. They dominated the second half. They're beat up to all hell, and they should have won the game. It really came down to a coin flip, and the defense was gassed, and they couldn't stop them. But what has led people to believe that the Rams might be done, they might be cooked, is the fact that the Arizona Cardinals blew them out of the water 41-10 in a game that no one could have seen coming, no matter if you're the biggest Cardinal fan or the biggest Rams pessimist. Now, it did happen. And so because of that, we have a lot of people that have just assumed that this is what the Rams are. And truthfully, I don't agree with that. I don't think that is what the Rams are. I don't think we're about to see them implode down the stretch. The Rams are trying to avoid their first 0-3 start since 2011. Okay? Mind you, 2011 was the year coming off a 7-9 record in Sam Bradford's rookie season. 2011 was a year where they had injury after injury. Josh Gordy was starting at corner, went from his couch to starting at corner for the Rams. Sam Bradford had the high ankle plaguing him the whole year. Danny Amendola dislocated his elbow. It was a catastrophe of epic proportions because a lot of people felt like the Rams could be that sleeper team. We're 7-9 with a rookie quarterback in year 1 and felt like maybe in year 2 they could potentially do something. Well, that wasn't the case. Since 1979, only 6 teams have made the playoffs starting 0-3, which the Rams are trying to avoid. Now, 2020 was the first year of the expanded new playoffs with 7 teams making it in the NFC and 7 teams making it in the AFC, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. But with that said, The Texans are actually the last team that went 0-3 to start the season and made the playoffs. That happened in 2018. So interesting stuff there to chew on. Most importantly, this is a big thing, no Super Bowl team has ever started 0-3. So the Rams are looking at a potential death sentence in terms of the playoffs, history, all of that. McVay has never started a season 0-2, and he's now done that. And he's never started a season 0-3. Will he follow suit? Does this feel like an 0-3 roster to you? I don't think so. I don't even think that's the case with the injuries they have. But they did have to play the 49ers, the Lions. Now maybe the Cardinals are for real in the first 3 weeks of the year. So, with that said, Sean McVay never started a season 0-2. Before that, 2023, he was 1-2. Mind you, 2023, he was 1-2. They went to the playoffs. 2022, he was 2-1. They ended up winning 3 games the rest of the year. 2021, he was 3-0. They won the Super Bowl. 2020, he was 2-1. 2019, they were 3-0. 2019, they had a bevy of injuries, offensive line, and so forth, and that held that team back. They just missed the playoffs by a game. They went 9-7. 2018, they were 3-0. They went to the Super Bowl. 2017, his first year, they went 2-1. Does it really matter, though? Truthfully, does it really matter how you start? Is this an overrated thing? Is this just something that they put out there to get clicks? And is this something where we just aren't patient enough to watch the rest of the year go and we need all the answers that we can find out? I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're like me and you love football, you want to know who's good and who's not. And you're looking at this week and the last 2 weeks as a conundrum in a way to try to find out who's truly good and who's truly not good. And unfortunately, the NFL doesn't always give you the answers because a lot of the time it comes down to matchup. It comes down to an in-game injury. It comes down to injuries before the game. It comes down to home field advantage. It comes down to all-time splits. Sometimes you have guys like Andy Dalton that are 4-0 against a specific team, the Raiders, which is why I think the Carolina Panthers win this week. People will look at it and be like, that didn't make any sense. Andy Dalton's 4-0 against that team for whatever reason. Whether you believe in weird juju or whatnot, that's how things work. So I wanted to bring that up to start because it doesn't matter and it does matter. It's important to get off to a good start, but it's not the end-all be-all. And while history would have you believe if the Rams lose to the 49ers this weekend, things are over, 0-3, there's still 6 teams that have made the playoffs. Now, I want to bring this up. 2023, they start off 3-6. They only had 3 wins going into week 11 with essentially their season hanging in the balance against a Seahawks team without their starting running back in Kyren Williams. Sure, they got Matthew Stafford back after the bye, but still, not a great place to be in. As a matter of fact, the Rams had to win 7 of their last 8 games just to make the playoffs. And they had to have some help. If Seattle didn't struggle down the stretch, Rams might not have made it anyway. So, 3-6 turned into 10-7. Does it help to go 6-3 to start? Yes. But it's a tale of two halves when it comes to football. It's a tale of two halves when it comes to a football season. The first half of the season, who you are, is not indicative of who you are in the second half of the season. And we've seen that. 2022, they started off 3-3. Don't forget about that. They started off 3-3. They were 2-1 to start. They were 3-3 going in the bye. Felt like, okay, team's banged up. I don't love where they're at, but they could sneak into the playoffs. They can win enough games. At the very worst, they're going to win 7-8 games, right? Wrong. They would only win 2 games the rest of the year coming out of the bye. So what does that tell you? Well, the 3-3 record didn't really mean much, right? They only won 5 games. Injuries happened, all of that. 2021, they got blown out by 17 at home to Arizona. I mean, are we going to act like that didn't happen? That absolutely happened. Arizona blew them out at SoFi Stadium in the first 4 weeks of the year. They did not win a game in November. They lost to good teams. You know what the growing murmur was around Rams fans? Are we that good? Really? Are we that good? Have we played anybody that's actually good? Do we have any good wins aside from the Tampa game? That was what was happening. So certainly in 2021, when they got blown out by Arizona and they lost to the Titans, Packers, and 49ers, people were wondering how good really is this team? Can this team even win the Super Bowl? And they won it. And they won it despite all the injuries that they were playing with. No Fuller, no Higbee, no Woods, OBJ tearing his ACL in the middle of the game, down to the third string tight end on the first play because Kendall Blanton got hurt. No running back to speak of that was healthy. They were all banged up. And yet they found a way to get it done. 2020, they start off 4-1. 4-1. They look great. Defense is number one in the league. Start off 4-1. Guess what? They only win 6 more games the rest of the year. They go 10-6, stumbling into the playoffs. Then you have 2019. 2019, they start off 3-0, and they end up only winning 6 games the rest of the year. They finish the season 9-7. They miss the playoffs. They blow a 21-point lead in Santa Clara to the 49ers, a game they had to have. They get trounced by the Cowboys for no apparent reason, and that's that. 2017, they start 1-1. They beat the 49ers in week 3. Interesting. I think they play the 49ers week 3 this week. And they win 41-39 and end up going to the playoffs at 11-5. So when the Rams lost to Washington, Sean McVay's first loss of his career, there were a lot of people that were concerned by that. Jared Goff definitely missed wide open Robert Woods and threw way too late. And that was a game that they could have won. However, the Rams came away with an 11-5 record. They didn't let it bring them down. Now, talking about injuries, because I think this also is a big part of the puzzle. Make no mistake about it. Do I think the Cardinals outplayed the Rams regardless if they were healthy or not? Absolutely. The Cardinals deserve all the credit in the world the way they played the Rams. But I do think injuries are a factor, and they will be a factor moving forward. Back in 2009, the Rams had 3 on IR and 1 was ruled out going into week 3. 2010, 5 on IR, 6 ruled out going into week 3. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016 were all lower than 8 guys being out, right? Now you get into 2017, 6 on IR. 2018, 8 on IR. That team went to the Super Bowl. 8 on IR and 2 were ruled out going into week 3. 2019, 3 on IR, 1 was ruled out. 2020, they went to the playoffs, 5 on IR, 1 was ruled out. 2021, 2 were on IR. That's it. That team won the Super Bowl. 2022, 12 on IR, 3 were ruled out for 2022. 2023, there were 4 on IR, and that was that. And then this year, 11 on IR, 1 on the PUP list, and 2 are ruled out. So, if you look at the grand scheme of things, the injuries, which by the way, last year, they were ruled one of the healthiest teams, if not the healthiest in the NFL. And guess what? 2021, they were one of the healthiest teams in the NFL. But every other year, it seems like since 2021, it's been a problem. Now, 2022 was a problem. Now 2024 is a problem. 2024 has a chance. I'm already calculating. I'm already counting. I already have my list. They have a chance. It's early, but they've already had 53 players play a snap in the NFL. Play a snap in an NFL game in the first 2 weeks. The record, I believe, is held by the Titans, who had 86. You bet your ass I'll be monitoring that. So, with that said, injuries suck. We hate them. The difference between 2022 in 2024 is that the injuries to the 2022 squad, there were some key contributors, but they weren't all really important. And I don't mean to diminish injuries, but the point I'm making is these are significant losses. Not having Cup, not having Nakua, not having Higbee, not having Noteboom, not having Avila, right? Jonah Jackson. These are significant injuries. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. On the defensive side, not having your number one corner in Darius Williams, significant. That's a significant injury. No one is going to say otherwise. Kobe Durant was on the injury report. Does he play this week? That would be significant if he doesn't play. John Johnson, probably their best safety through the first 2 weeks. He's out. So they have significant injuries as opposed to just having a bunch of quantity injuries. They have more quality injuries, key injuries, if you will. So you're probably asking yourself, well, I've watched for about 16 minutes. What am I watching for? Why? You haven't told me anything to get me feeling like, yeah, I shouldn't give up on this team. You're right. I wanted to lay out the groundwork. I wanted to let you know where they stand. The first point I'd make is the one I already made. It doesn't matter. The way the season started really doesn't matter. It's the first 2 weeks of the season. And also, all these teams that I just listed, they're not all created equal. They're not. 2017, that was a 4-win team in 2016. So guess what? They had a bad schedule. They had a weaker, easier schedule. 2018, they win the NFC West. Now they have a first place schedule, right? So now 2019 is going to be a first place schedule because they won the NFC West in 2018. Now 2019, 3-0, but they don't make the playoffs with the first place schedule. That puts them, I believe they were the 3 seed that year, the third team in the NFC West. So now 2020, you're playing with the third place schedule where you play all the third place teams in the NFC. 2021, now, because 2020, you made the playoffs, 2021, now you're playing a second place schedule. And of course, you won the Super Bowl. So now you're playing a first place schedule in 2022. Now you have all those injuries piled up. And now 2022, that first place schedule, that having one of the toughest schedules in the league hurts a little bit more. Now, when you think about it, 2022, for instance, you have a team that finished last in their division. So now the worst schedule is going to be played by the 2023 team. Actually, I believe it's third place. So third place schedule being played by 2023. 2023 makes the playoffs. Did they win the NFC West? No, they do not have a first place schedule. They have a second place schedule in 2024. So with that said, and I want to make this clear, not all of these are created equal. Right now, the Rams are playing a second place schedule. And furthermore, these teams change. Who thought the Saints were going to look like the best team in the league? They're on track. If they score 40 points this week, they could do something that no team has done in years. Okay? I don't think ever. The Saints are 2-0. The Ravens are 0-2. It's wild right now. Truthfully, wild. So there's a lot of things early on that happen, and it all comes out in the wash. So if you're giving up on this team, just first off understand what you're talking about. You're talking about one of the more winning franchises since 2017, since Sean McVay took over. You're now throwing in the towel. You're saying it's over, despite the fact that they have Matthew Stafford, despite the fact that they have Kyren Williams, despite the fact they have a somewhat healthy defense. The offensive line got back their left tackle. They have their right tackle, their right guard. Despite all of that, despite a defensive line that has shown they've shown something. You're saying this team is done. You've gone as far as to say that this team should trade away Matthew Stafford, some of you. No, they should not do that. They absolutely should not. First off, you're complaining about Les Snead trading away Ernest Jones for a bag of beans. Do you really want to even put that into a possibility where he trades Stafford for nothing? I would assume not. So I look at this team and I see a team that, yes, they have injuries and it sucks. But they're actually in a decent position here. And this is not being talked about because the way they lost on Sunday to the Cardinals, who nobody is buying into yet, which I get. I understand that to a degree. But understand something, okay? When it comes to the Rams, understand this. When you look at this team, they don't have any of these injuries for the year, right? Puka Nacua is expected to be back. They're all expected to come back. That's the first thing. The second thing is, this was a bumpy start to the season. The Lions and the 49ers in the first 3 games. Next week, I'm not saying Chicago will be a walk in the park, especially going to Chicago, but Caleb Williams has not played good football. And this defense has been putting pressure on quarterbacks. They have. So, Caleb Williams, I like their chances in that game. Jordan Love has been out, so he'll probably be back for the Packers game. But let's be honest here, he might not be 100%. So I think you look at that. If you win 2 of the next 3 games, you're 2-3 coming out of the bye. You're 1 win away of what you had going into week 11 last year. So you're 2-3. The Raiders have played some inspiring football as of late, but I think the Rams can beat them. I think the Rams can beat the Vikings, despite the fact the Vikings are off to a good start. Seattle, they can beat Seattle. Seattle hasn't played anybody, and they've barely beaten they took overtime for them to beat the Patriots, who people had having the number 1 seed, or number 1 pick, and they barely beat Bo Nix and the Broncos at home. So I think Seattle is winnable. Miami's winnable. Absolutely. New England's winnable. The Eagles are winnable. The Saints, who the hell knows? The way the Saints look, that might not be a winnable game, but we'll see. It's early. The Bills. Bills typically win those games, so I would probably lean Bills. 49ers, you're not winning both games. You might win one or the other. You're not winning both. I would say one of them is winnable. The Cardinals, again, I think the Rams, it'll be a different game in week 17. Same with Seattle. And the Jets is winnable. So I don't look at the Rams schedule and say this team is done. I don't think they have a schedule that's tough enough for you to say, yeah, they're cooked. I wouldn't say that. How are they cooked? So I look at, a team like the Vikings, and I look at their schedule, and I'm like, man, they got some teams. They play the 49ers, the Texans. They beat the 49ers, but the Texans, Green Bay, Detroit, the Rams, the Falcons. I don't love what the Vikings are dealing with. I don't. So I do think, if we're being honest here, I do think the Rams have been overblown as a team that's done. I understand, reactionary, all of that. I'll tell you right now, the 49er game, they might not win, but they're not losing 41-10. And as long as they play inspiring football and they play to the level they did against Detroit, they're going to carry that on the rest of the year. They're going to get healthier. They have a bye that I thought was a disadvantage before the season. Now looks like a saving grace. You come out of the bye week 7. You have winnable games. Nobody's out for the year. You're going to get almost all your guys back before, I would say, that week 10 matchup against Miami on Monday Night Football. I mean, count the Rams out, if you want, but I mean, it really took everything to hit them all at once in 2022. You have to understand this. 17 different offensive line combinations, okay? If the Rams continue to get hurt, that's one thing. If you think they're a team that's just cursed, they have no chance, that's one thing. But if you're thinking from a football perspective, this team's done, you haven't been paying attention. I would not be surprised. I'm not picking them, but I would not be surprised if the Rams came out and won the game against San Francisco. And San Francisco has injuries too. No Debo, potentially no Kittle, potentially no Charvarius Ward. Those are injuries. Those are losses. Christian McCaffrey's out. I think Jordan Mason's a stud, so it's still an issue. But he's out. The offensive line isn't great. It's Trent Williams, and if you find out that Jared Verse can actually get pressure against Trent Williams, this is a completely different ballgame. So it's Trent Williams, and you have Dominic Pooney at right guard. You have Aaron Banks, who's okay. Brendel is terrible at center, and McKivitz is okay. But that offensive line isn't any better than the Rams. The defensive line, really good, but it just takes a few big plays, and I think the Rams can kind of keep this game close and play spoiler, and they're at home. So we'll see what happens, but look, I'm not going to sit here and say my prediction, which was health permitting, my prediction of them winning the Super Bowl is 100% going to happen. I'm not going to sit there and say that. But to act like this team has no chance and the season's over after 2 weeks, we saw on one hand, week one, a team that was in it, a team that looked like a Super Bowl contender and had one of the best losses that you could have in front of a worldwide audience. And then in game 2 against the Cardinals, we saw a team that folded, a team that didn't even look like they wanted to play the game versus a team that had a bunch of built-up frustration. 13 of the last 15 times they had lost. They hadn't won in Arizona since 2014. It was all built up, pent up anger, and they threw it out on the Rams. We also saw a team in that game that can create pressure. And we saw a team in that game that can move the football. And we saw a team in that game that got really good field position to start the game from Blake Corum. There are things to take away from every game, no matter if it's a win or a loss, if it's a blowout on the side of you or it's a blowout against you. But the point I'm making here is that the story has not been written. This is not over. And if you think about jumping off the bandwagon now, then that's fine. But just know, Sean McVay doesn't have a track record of letting this stuff stick around. 2022 was an anomaly. They had ridiculous amount of injuries. To this point, you would say 2024 is worse because of the quality of guys that are getting hurt. But I would argue 2022 was one of the most brutal seasons any team has had with injuries. So, with that said, when it's all said and done, I think the Rams are going to go back to the playoffs. I understand right now it seems tough. I think they have a chance to beat San Francisco. I would pick San Francisco in a 10-point game, but I think they have a shot. Wouldn't be surprised if they won. I think they are going to beat Chicago, and I think they are going to get that monkey off their back in Green Bay. Green Bay can't stop the run. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing for the Rams. Beautiful. Because if they can get Kyren Williams and Blake Corum going in the ground game against the Packers at SoFi, well, they're going to have a really good chance of winning that game. The Raiders, they can beat the Raiders. Like, there are too many teams on this schedule the Rams can beat, okay? That's the thing. So I understand how people see it. I understand people are concerned. But I think the Rams have a lot going for them. And again, this is the last thing I will say. I will echo it until I'm blue in the face. The Rams going into week 11 last year were 3 wins. They had 3 wins. They were a 3-win team. They can rip off 3 wins in between now and week 7 and be well ahead of where they were last year. They got to take care of business. They were blessed because the injuries, while they're bad, they're not devastating. They're not out for the year. These guys are going to be more fresh, if anything. If they make the playoffs, now you got Puka Nacua, who didn't play half a season. That's a good thing if they can get him going. So I think there is a decent amount to like, considering that it feels bleak right now. And the 49ers, they got a lot of injuries to the point where I don't even know. I mean, by the end of the week, I might end up switching my pick to the Rams, but I think right now I'm going to stick with the Niners. Regardless, don't bail on this team. They start 0-3, 1-2. They beat Chicago. They beat the Packers, whatever. Let them figure it out after the bye. You need at least one win, in my opinion, out of the first 5 games going in the bye to have a shot. If you don't have a win, that's not going to be good. But we already saw Sean McVay and the Rams are capable of ripping 7 wins of the last 8 when they had to last year. They can do it again. I think they're going to find a way to get this thing done, get to the playoffs. After that, we'll see. We'll see how healthy they are. But they are going to need some help. They are going to need to stay healthy. We'll see what ends up happening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed this video. I understand maybe this isn't a video for everybody. If you guys are already very hyped about this team, maybe it's not for you. But for those of you who needed kind of a little bit of a pick-me-up and just needed to get off the ledge a little bit, hopefully this helped. Be sure to check out today's sponsor, BetUS. They have a bunch of great stuff. Like I mentioned, Jordan Whittington, 32.5 receiving yards. I'd be pounding that all day. 22.5, Tutu Atwell. I like Jordan Whittington to score a touchdown in this game as well. So there's some value in this game. Don't sleep on it from a betting perspective, and don't sleep on the Rams from a fan perspective, because last time I checked, there are 15 more games, and the season has not been completed as of yet. So that's all I got for you guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow me on all social media at JKBo, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Kick. And that's going to do it. So I'll see you guys soon. You guys take care. Later, folks. For those of you who want to support the channel further, you can go ahead and you can actually sign up and become a member on the channel and have access to all different perks. You can see here the join button right below all my videos. You can hit that. You're going to get access. 99 cents a month will get you rookie access. That's going to get you all these loyalty badges and what have you, priority reply to comments. All members will have priority reply to comments. Starter $2.99. That is going to be member shoutouts. Pro Bowl is going to be auto follow back on all social media platforms. You just have to reach out to me and show me that, of course, you are a member for Pro Bowl. All Pro is members only live streams. I will be doing one a month for members only. MVP is priority call-ins. It's going to be hard to get everybody in during the season. Obviously, you will have your first crack at basically calling in to the show. And then last but not least, the Hall of Fame, which is $19.99 a month. And that is an exclusive gaming session with me monthly. So if you want to get a little bit more into the action while also helping out the channel, be sure to sign up for one of the memberships today. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.